simply because the cost of trucking goods to the marketplace is going to go up that much. And that's based on the Department of Commerce numbers. Back in 2016, I apologize, I don't know the exact number, but I believe it was about $659.2 billion is what it cost to truck goods in this country back in 2016. And they are estimating that that cost is going to go up by about 6 to 7%, which equates out to about $42 billion extra. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a complete fallacy that the FMCSA is passing on to everyone. They're telling folks that this is going to increase safety, and that is absolutely untrue. There are a couple of drivers who are here today who are going to speak on some of those points, and I believe that it is important that the general public understand exactly what is happening here. This is something that is bad for industry, it's bad for small business, it's bad for the economy overall, and in particular, it is bad for all of these men and women who rely on their husbands and wives, their sons and daughters, their mothers and fathers, as you can see, to be able to provide for them on a regular basis. This needs to be fixed. It needs to be stopped. Representative Brian Babin has proposed a bill. It's called H.R. 3282. That is at the minimum to delay this mandate so that better studies can be done, so that the effects of this ELD mandate could actually be more or greater categorized or proven, if you will. The FMCSA, the ATA, they've been called out asking questions multiple times. Where did they do these studies? How did they do these studies? What formulas did they come up with? They're touting that this law is going to save 26 lives. Now, I'd like to know how they came up with the 26 lives. And after being repeatedly asked, they have yet to today, they have not come forth with any kind of formula or tests or studies that prove that they're going to save 26 lives. I call them all out, and all of these drivers, their husbands and wives, their families, they need some sort of answers that brings this actual to factual information. I'm going to introduce a couple of these drivers. Come on up. These drivers are going to speak about a couple of the issues that need to be addressed. So I'm going to turn it over.
Thank you, Matthew. My name is Doug Kratz. I'm a 31-year trucking veteran. I've lived in Pennsylvania all my life. I want to thank you all folks for coming out and taking the time to hear these issues that are very near and dear to all of our hearts. Today I want to speak to you specifically about the current hours of service that we as truck drivers work under. The hours of service regulations are regulated by FMCSA and by DOT, and they are going to be in the future regulated by these ELDs that we are saying, and as Matthew told you, are unreliable. They don't have any kind of proven track record as to how they come about their information and the facts that they are presenting of why we need them. But those hours of service regulations, which were put into place in 2003 and 2013, were slightly modified. Drivers found early on that these regulations were not conducive to safety. There's a 14-hour clock that we need to comply with. It's a running clock. When we start our day, we have 14 hours to complete everything we do. So what has happened, because we as drivers spend countless hours sitting in traffic jams, and if any of you drive around the Harrisburg area on the interstates, 81, 581, 83, you know that not a day goes by without a traffic jam somewhere. We're going to get stuck somewhere in traffic. We also spend, as a group, millions of hours. They're stolen from us while we sit in delays at shippers and receivers, warehouses, different locations where we pick up and deliver our freight. All of us spend lots of time there, and most of us are uncompensated for this time. So we have 14 hours to make our living turning our wheels. What happens is with this 14-hour clock and these regulations that are supposed to provide safety for the general public and for us, the very opposite has happened. Because what we find now is there is a mentality out there which I like to call the beat the clock mentality. We as drivers, and many of us still do, take this job very seriously. We do it carefully and safely with pride and professionalism. But what we're seeing happening because of these 14-hour clock and the hours of service regulations is that the attitude is now just get it done as quick as possible. This 14-hour clock, this almighty regulator of our time, is what rules our day. Safety and professionalism and doing a good job for our customers sometimes takes a back seat because the 14-hour clock is always running. Sadly, we have become slaves to that. And ELDs are only going to make this problem worse, not improve it. They're nothing more than a compliance tool that will actually make drivers less safe, as they will become more absorbed with not getting an electronic violation than actually doing their job safely. All you have to do is go on YouTube and check out some of the largest carriers in this country who promote ELDs. They have been using them voluntarily for several years. Just check out some of the driver fails videos on YouTube, and they prove that these don't prevent accidents. Countless accidents every day around the country by drivers who are using ELDs. They're a tool. They're a driver management tool that if you choose to use it is great. We feel it should not be forced upon us. It should be our choice. Qualified, experienced, professional drivers, which you see around here today, are what keeps our roads safe and prevent accidents. We don't want this unproven technology forced on us. We are already safe and we prove it every single day. Our lives depend on it. Our livelihoods depend on it. Our families depend on us being safe. We do not need an electronic box forced on us by the government to keep us safe. We ask for the freedom to choose. The current hours of service regulations must be addressed before any implementation of ELDs happens. If we as an industry, if we as a nation hope to achieve safer highways. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Landis. I am from Lidditz, Pennsylvania. Third generation truck driver. I've been doing this since I graduated high school. It's all I ever wanted to do, and I kind of see this being taken away from my childhood dream here with this stuff coming down the road. Following the hours of service there that Doug spoke about, I'd like to talk about a little bit of the safety end of it. The FMCSA and ATA have claimed this is going to save 26 lives a year. They shoved this down. The public actually knows about it, and the Congress throats about the safety aspect of it. But in fact, we're seeing most of the companies that are running these or have gone to running these, their safety ratings and their accidents and everything have gone up. Whenever you ask the ATA or the FMCSA about where they got their information on their 26 lives a year, they have no answer. They don't know what to tell you because there's absolutely nothing they have done or looked up or ran tests on to prove that it's going to actually save 26 lives a year. Like I said, everything we've seen so far, I believe it's going to take 26 more lives a year. With the hours of service, you can run into weird situations where once you start your day, because that clock don't stop, you may have only driven for 2 or 3 hours and you get hung up at a dock for 8 hours. What do you do while you're sitting there? There's nothing to do. You sit in your truck, you take a nap, and you watch TV. And once you're loaded and going, you can only drive a couple more hours and you have to stop for 10 hours and take your 10-hour break, which restarts your 14 hours that you can work. And now during those 10 hours, because you just sat somewhere for 8 hours a few hours ago, you can't sleep. You're not tired because you've rested. When your 10 hours is up, you start driving 2 to 3 hours into your trip, you start feeling sleepy. I'm sure anyone that's ever driven anywhere in a car, any length of time, knows what I'm talking about. Well, these things are satellite tracked with GPS. They're plugged into the computers that run every instrument in the truck, including the motor, the braking system, the instrument panel, everything. These companies know where you're at, how fast you're going, which direction you're going, how hard you're on the throttle, how hard you're on the brakes. If you feel tired and you need to pull over, a lot of these companies will call because they can see you stop and they want to know why you stop. You tell them, well, I need to take a nap, I feel a little tired. Well, no, according to the rules, you're legal. You need to get in that truck and drive or else you don't have a job. Laws were originally, and hours of service were originally brought on to keep coercion of drivers down, so people could not push drivers into running more than they felt comfortable doing. And it's almost like with this, they've reversed the system, because on paper, no one can see where you were. No one can see how many hours you worked that day, or when you slept, or how long you slept, or if you're good to go. As long as you got from point A to point B was all that mattered. Now, they can see all that. So instead of letting a driver safely do what they need to do to get the job done, they can call them because they see they're not moving, and they see their stop, and basically threaten their job, which you're not supposed to do, but it happens every day. I hear about it all the time. To me, that's not safer. Also, with, like I said, it's GPS tracked, satellite tracked, and it's plugged into the computer in the truck that runs the entire system of the truck. It can be hacked. University of Michigan's already done it last year. They hacked into one, they got in the computer in the truck through the ELD, and they altered the braking system. They messed with the throttle of the truck. They shut all the instrument panels down. Do you want a loaded gas tanker sitting at an intersection with a school bus of kids across the street, and someone decides that they're going to hack into it and hammer his throttle, and he gets to the intersection and gets T-boned? I don't really want to see that. I don't want to be the guy driving the truck when it happens either. It's just not good on any level, and it's not that it can't be done. Anyone knows it. Any computerized Wi-Fi RAN, satellite RAN thing can be hacked by anybody. They claim it can't, but it can. And you don't want a guy also rushing through his day. He's got that clock staring him in the face all day long. You don't want him driving an 80,000-pound truck down the road, racing a clock, essentially, is what they're doing. It takes the thought process and the mental capacity of doing your job safely and throws it right out the window, because they just need to get down the road a couple extra miles to either make it home to their destination. I see it every day. Guys in the big company trucks come off a hill because they're governed on flat road. It only goes so fast. They come down the hill and they let it go as fast as it'll go. It's not safe to have a truck doing 85 miles an hour down the road, and the guy probably doesn't have that much experience doing it. In conclusion, it's not a safe thing to do at all. It's going to end up creating less safe roads, and they're trying to push it under creating more safe roads.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to ask you to just look around. You're going to see all these drivers. Most of these drivers have been driving for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Some of them have 2, 3, 4 million miles behind the wheel. They've never once had an accident. No violations whatsoever. And yet the FMCSA believes that by putting these electronic logging devices into each one of their trucks, it's actually going to make the roads safer. I call them and ask, how do you come up with that? These men and women have already demonstrated their safety for the last 20, 30 years behind the wheel. How does that make the roads any safer? When MAP 21, ladies and gentlemen, was first introduced, there were 3 bullet points. 3 main reasons and core fundamental reasons why they started MAP 21. One of them was, if in fact they find carriers who have serious amounts of violations and accidents, that they are to remove those carriers from continuing to do business on the roads. Werner, Swift, Schneider. Anybody who's in the trucking business, they know these names. The largest in fatalities on the roads are from these mega companies. who currently, mind you, have been running ELDs. Now, we're not talking about small increments of fatalities on the roads. They've gone up significantly. Some companies having in excess of 60 fatalities themselves in 1 year. I ask you, how is it that these companies, who are the largest proliferators of fatalities on the road, how is it that these companies are still allowed to continue to operate? And yet, the FMCSA and the ATA believe that it is these men and women who do their job respectively, safely, every single day, they're going to mandate that these individuals get monitored every day. I hope that everyone sees the unjust and the unfair rationale that's being implemented. Too many men and women are going to be affected. You are all going to be affected. The hours of service, as we heard, the hours of service is really the crux of the problem. It is that main issue, ladies and gentlemen, that really, I guess, exacerbates this issue. We need someone to stand up. We need the American people to help these truck drivers, to reach out to your local congressman, all of those who have actually voted for this. We need every single one of you to stand up and actually take a stand. Because it is these men and women who are behind the wheels that you are driving alongside of. And as they have said, the clock that is ticking every single day does not help them to be any safer. You've all had a bad night's sleep. They are being told to sleep 10 hours at a certain time, from this time to this time during the course of the day. I'm sure everyone who's listening right now has had one bad night's sleep where you tossed and turned for several hours. And maybe, just maybe, you got 2 or 3 hours of sleep that night. Well, that is when these men and women are now expected to get back behind the wheel of that truck and continue on and do their job. That doesn't make the road safer. Not even a tiny bit. Anybody else have anything they would like to add?
Hi. I'm going to speak a few things from the heart, personal experiences as a female driver and owner of my own company. I am a single owner with a single truck, with me being a single driver. Everyone in this group has really nice trucks. We care about this business. We take care of our equipment. We don't want to mess anything up with our equipment, and we certainly don't want to. I was from a school bus driver background, so I am, being a mother also and a grandmother, I love my kids. Everything I go through towns, I'm looking for kids, I'm looking for, pedestrians, and if I do anything wrong, my insurance would go sky high, and that would put me out of business, really. Our insurance is out of this world as it is. I've had several incidents where a young driver has either backed in beside me, or both times I was parked, and one guy ran into the side of me, said his brakes failed, and then continued to hook up to a trailer and leave. And these were companies that, when they do this, it's all swept under the rug. It's not documented in their insurance. They are self-insured companies. They pay the drivers under the table and say hush hush about it, so nothing's recorded. And also I wanted to talk about the parking issues because, I being female, I run Florida, and believe me, when I get into downtown Miami, I'm a little scared. I carry a pit bull with me, he travels with me, but when I call LTL, which is I do many stops on my way down to Florida, and then I bring produce up and do one delivery close to my home. But when I do these LTLs, and they hold me up and hold me up and hold me up, and then I end up, I have to shut down in Miami for 10 hours, believe me, I'm not sleeping. I'm terrified. I'm up on my seat looking, making sure nobody's hurting my equipment, nobody's going to come in and hurt me. So the parking issues, there's no parking. We all like to get to our safe places to park. Mine happens to be where I know some fellow drivers that I might know, that I know they're going to be parked there, that I like to get there, so I know I can rest. I can actually rest. And that's what I wanted to say personally was, insurance and equipment. We love our equipment, and again, parking and safety for my safety. And I'm sure all these guys are the same thing. We all want to be safe. Thank you.
Of these guys standing here today. I'm a third generation truck driver, 25 years on the road, and I did a little bit of quick math. Between my grandfather, my father, and myself, we have over 6 million miles and no chargeable accidents. We're all independent truck drivers. Just to give a name and a face, I mean, just look around. This is us. This is the trucks that passed you, the small independent owner operators. Today's my anniversary. I woke up at 2 o'clock this morning to get here. My wife turned over and said, "Happy anniversary." And I can't think of an anniversary that I've been home. And that's the background. That's the family. I've also chosen to homeschool my kids in the truck for the last 6 years. And my 13-year-old at the last homeschool evaluation said, if I'm not a pro motocross rider, I want to drive a truck. So that's the 4th generation. And it's 4 generations of effective, safe truck drivers. It also has a huge economic impact on us as families. Just because of the flexibility is going to be taken from me by having an ELD, in round numbers, it's going to add 500 hours to my workload each year. 500 hours of being away from my family. I got a 10, 11, and 13-year-old. They're not going to see me 500. They're going to see me 500 hours less than they did last year because of the ELD. And that also translates into you, because I'm going to be working 500 more hours. I'm going to charge my customers 500 more hours. And in the end, your milk, your bread, your steel products, your automobiles, your tires are going to cost more at Walmart and grocery stores. So what you really need to understand, if it's beyond truck drivers, it's going to affect the general public at the grocery store, at the checkout line. Thank you.
Well, I see some of the media has decided to leave, but the juiciest bits are yet to come. We have Congressman Bill Schuster, who is the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. He is one of our Pennsylvania representatives. Congressman Schuster has been holding up this delay, this H.R. 3282, and has basically been refusing to allow it to be voted upon. I find it curious when you have the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, who has singularly taken the largest in history of the ATA, the very largest single donation for a campaign. There is a long history in the Schuster family of taking campaign donations, and not that that is anything wrong. But it is my understanding that as congressional representatives, they're actually not allowed to be taking any kind of revenue that might be portrayed as influencing them on a vote. Now, I understand that campaigns are campaigns and money comes in. But if you go through the history of the ATA and the dollar amounts that they have given, in any way, shape, or form, to any congressional campaign, Congressman Schuster's is in most cases 20 times higher. Now, again, maybe that's just coincidence, and maybe that significantly high donation was taken in the year of 2014. Many of you drivers understand that 2014, pretty significant. It's when this thing basically was started. So we have to take pause for a moment, or at least I ask everyone to take pause for just a moment and ask yourself, is it possible that a decision to push this mandate by the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is unbiased after taking those kinds of donations? I find it hard to believe that that is possible. And such carelessness in those types of decisions has such an adverse and negative effect on so many people's lives. Mind you, folks, these are Pennsylvania residents, voters. This is information where, again, people need to know. And it's not just a bunch of truck drivers complaining because they feel like they're being monitored. A big misconception that is being spoken. This is their lives. In many cases, that truck is their home for in excess of 40, 42, 45 weeks out of the year. They're literally invading their privacy. For what? So that they can monitor the good drivers that have already shown themselves and proven themselves? This is really about the money, ladies and gentlemen. It's about money. And I call out all Pennsylvania and every other state citizen in this country to understand what is happening. That you stand up for all of these men and women, because we all know that in some way, fashion, or form, there's going to be something that's going to come down the line that's going to affect you. Not that this doesn't already affect every single person in this country. Congressman Brian Babin out of Texas has introduced H.R. 3282. And what these men and women are asking today is something very, very simple and reasonable. That Congressman Babin's proposed bill be passed. And all that it is, it's asking for a delay, a 2-year delay, so that true studies can actually be made. So that the reality of all of this information, this propaganda, these going to save 26 lives, can actually be confirmed in some way. It's all of these people's lives on the chopping block right now. And everyone pays. Please go back and understand, again, map 21 and what it was originally intended to do. And how is it, ladies and gentlemen, that those people who are the biggest supporters and the members of the ATA, the Werners, the Swifts, how is it those people with the largest fatality rates are still running the roads, but they're going after these people, the safest drivers on the road? You have to ask yourself a little question. Is this right? I hope you all understand what the real answer is. Is there anyone else who has anything else that they would like to add? Come on down.
I just want to say my name is Brian Brazzi. I'm from East Petersburg, Pennsylvania, and I currently work for a company that is running ELDs. I personally have been put in situations where I am tired, I'm racing the clock, and I can't stop. I can't stop because as soon as I stop, the company's calling saying you got 4 hours left. Why have you stopped? Well, I stopped so I don't kill one of you driving down the road. That's why I stopped. I stopped because I got kids at home. I got a wife at home. I stopped because the cars going by me aren't paying attention to the trucks on the road. And I am not as alert as I should be. So I stop and I get some sleep. And then I'm penalized for stopping and sleeping. These guys are talking about how the ELD is kind of an invasion of privacy, where they can see that the truck is moving or not moving. They can see how many hours you have left on the day. Just to touch base real quick on what they were saying with the paper logs, that you know, they were implemented to stop companies from forcing drivers basically to drive more than what they should. So the logs came out, the hours of service came out to prevent some of that coercion, and you can tell the company, hey look, I don't have the hours left and you can go to bed. The logs stop you from being able to have that power to tell the company, no, I'm going to bed. They stop that. If I tell my company, no, I'm going to bed, I'm either getting written up or fired. That's all I'm going to say about it. Just some clarification on that ELD. I do run with a company. I won't disclose that company, but I do run for a company where we have ELDs, and I personally am witness to what these problems, or what the ELD will cause. They've already talked very good points about it, so I'm not going to go any further. Feel free to ask me questions afterwards if you want some little more details. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would have anything else to say, or does anybody have any questions? Like to come up. Come on.
I'm jealous of all you guys driving these beautiful sounding trucks through the Capitol this morning. It sounded great. I'm a new driver. Only been at it for about 3 or 4 years. Due to a job change, I was forced to make the decision, and I started with a local company about 30 miles south of here. I won't mention any names. Started driving with an ELD. I was trained to drive on an ELD, and I was trained how to drive dangerously. I was trained how to push the clock. I was trained by them to, if they needed to edit my ELD from the company office down in York, if they needed to make me get somewhere on time. So that ELDs are about safety is a big lie. The big companies edit their ELDs already. So yeah, just appeal to the U.S. government to support HR 3282.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions. Anyone? That means we've been very thorough in getting our point across, so there's the questions. I want to thank everybody for, yes? It varies, actually. There are some ELDs that are going to cost between the purchase price and the actual installation could be vary anywhere from $300 up to $800 or $900. And then those ELDs, they have to pay a monitoring fee on a monthly basis. Yep. So, and that can be anywhere from $35 up to $75 or $80, but that's where they're starting. So those numbers could literally change, because now it's the old adage of shooting fish in a barrel. They've got everybody locked in and they're not stopping. And the other part of that is this actual certification. Here's one of the craziest things about this. The FMCSA is allowing the manufacturers of these ELD devices to self-certify themselves. They're certifying themselves as compliant. They could put a box with a stereo inside of it and say, yes, we've certified ourselves. It literally is that nuts. So, with the obviously the not well thought out process, they're giving exemptions to all types of industries, livestock, because cattle are dying. If they make them shut down, cattle are going to die. The cost of meat is going to go absolutely through the roof. They're giving exemptions to these types of industries. So basically what they're saying is, it's okay if you guys drive unsafe, but the rest of these guys, no, we think that you're driving unsafe, so we're going to mandate that you put these electronic logging devices in your trucks. There is an enormous amount of hypocrisy with the electronic logging device mandate. And it's affecting, as everyone here has already said quite eloquently. Remember, these people are truck drivers. They've taken the time to come here today because they're this passionate about standing up. This is their way of life. This is how they earn a living. It's how they make money. It's how they pay their mortgages and their car payments. and they keep food on the table for their families. So they all came out here today because they believe this strongly. And once again, this is happening in 46 other locations all around this country today. So once again, I'm going to reiterate, we're asking for the support of Brian Babin's H.R. 3282. And we're actually calling out for President Trump himself to step in and intervene, if necessary, and stop this mandate from going into effect on December the 18th. I'd like to thank everybody. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say? Anyone? Okay. I think that wraps it up, folks. I want to thank everybody, thank the media for coming out.